Hello. In the last video, we talked about verifier-driven development. And what we did was we looked at the problem statement, which is here in this README file. And it includes several lines about the features. And then we started to document with AI. So one of the things that we documented was the functional specification. And we also documented, based on that functional specification, a system design document, and then we came up with a test plan. Each of these three documents is going to form an important part of building out this application with AI. What we're doing is we're using specification and verification to create guardrails and help the AI succeed. One of the other things we have in this file is GitHub Copilot instructions. And what this is going to do is, for this project, describe all of the things we expect from GitHub Copilot and how it's to behave. All of this can be found on my Ruthless Help personal GitHub, and it's under pytest_vdd_spreadsheet. Okay, let's get started. As we go through the README file, I've moved through the setup instructions, get to the point where we're ready to run tests. So I've created one passing test just to give a little bit of structure to this project. So when we run the line pytest tests -v, this is going to give us a verbose explanation of the one test that passed. The other thing I can do is look at the coverage and run this, and that will tell me how much of the code is actually being tested. So 71% of the code is actually being tested. So now we're going to start with our chat. So what we would like our agent to do is, first of all, we want to make sure we're in agent mode. And I'm using Claude Sonnet 4 as my model. What we can have is read the .github/copilot instructions.md file. This starts with a context of how this project is organized and explains all of the expectations. Now we might have read the documents in the docs folder. Here again, there are the functional spec and the system design. And it goes through and brings all of that information into the context of our application development. Using the test plan.md. Let's take a moment to show the docs in the docs folder, the functional specification, and the system design we talked about before. The Copilot instructions is there. But within tests, we have the test plan. So what we want to use is the tests in the test plan. File. Write the next failing. Let's next failing test in the test-driven development cycle. So what it should do at this point is see what a good next failing test would be. So we already have a test written, and it should find a good choice for that next failing test. It looks through and sees that there's already one passing test, and it's going to give me the opportunity to determine how it can run the test. So I can take a look at the difference here. So it's adding a test, and it's just the one test. And what it's going to do is put hello world into cell A1, and then check to see if cell A1 has or stores that value. We can also see that it wants to change an import statement. And this is for the sake of how this project is organized. It's having a little trouble running the test with it. I will continue. And now it's going to go through. It's trying to create its own environment so that it can run the tests. It's having a little bit of trouble with this, so it needs to run in its own terminal. And now it is able to correct that and determine the next failing test. So the first test continues to pass, and the next test fails. So I'm going to keep this change, and I'm going to say write just enough code to have the failing test pass. Keep it simple. So at this point, it's looking to do the minimum. And in order to do that minimum, it will need to make some changes. I can review those changes, see what it's going to do. Okay, it's decided that it needs to have a place to hold the cells. And when the cell is put, it will put it in that container, and then it will take it out of that container. Okay, at this point, I'm happy. I'll let it run the tests. I can see that it passed. And now it'll give me an update as to where things stand in the project. Let's keep that change. And then we can use the up arrow to find the statement of that we had run before. Rerun that to find the next failing test. Again, we can take a look at what test is it proposing. Oh, it's going to put 3 values in, get 3 values out. Let's see if that actually is a failing test. No, it's not a failing test. So what it needs to do now is look for an additional test. So that was the test we had before. Now it wants to add a second test here that is going to be floating point numbers. We'll see how this does. And now it found that it has a failing test. So we're going to see that get literal is not implemented. So this is our failing test. We can look back and see what is it suggesting. This is just the literal test. So what it's going to do is put hello world, but it's going to call the get literal. So it's adding tests along the way, and each one looks good to me. The format is fine. I'm comfortable with that. So now I'm going to keep these files. Now going to the next part of our TDD cycle is write just enough code to have the failing test pass. Again, keep it simple. So it's making some suggestions as to how to return the various values, and continue. Now that's passed. We'll see how the implementation has changed, read and understand that. And keep that. At this point, we have gone through and built a number of changes where each one of our methods has been implemented. We've gone through and created tests, and each one of those tests pass. Now we might ask about code coverage. Measure the code coverage. At this point, it's going to run PyTest with coverage, and it's going to show that 100% of our code is tested. This is the simple spreadsheet, but our test plan goes beyond the simple spreadsheet. It adds formulas, test dependencies, and circular references. So to continue this project would be to go and ask for the next test and the next test until eventually all of the features and functions in the test plan have been implemented. So in future videos, we will walk through each one of these scenarios.